Welcome back to Hardware Unboxed. Tim and I just finished our live stream build, so we've been madly cleaning up. There was stuff everywhere. Hopefully you guys, or a lot of you, saw that. If you missed it, I recommend going back and watching it. It was a lot of fun, and thank you to everyone who did watch it live. But anyway, that is over, and we've cleaned up, and now it's time for the monthly Q&A, but we're kind of a month late on that because Tim got sick. Blame Tim.
Yeah, sorry
so
guys.
Technically there will be 2 Q&As this month, one later in the month, but so this is the April Q&A. So let's just pretend it's still April.
Yep.
April Q&A. This is part 1, so let's jump into the questions. Okay, since Tim's feeling a bit under the weather, I thought we'd kick this off with a nice comment to lift Tim's spirit. And A. Mavis has come to the rescue with that. Just came here to say, I love you guys.
Oh, how nice.
What a nice comment. Thank you very much, A. Mavis, and we love you guys. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, let's move on. Hub HQ setup tour. That is the next question. I assume they're asking, could we do one? Or have we done one? We do a lot of that sort of stuff for the Patreon behind the scenes stuff. And not just because we want you guys to pay to see that, but there's, well, it's not really main channel quality content, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we just, get in front of the camera for 15 minutes, show you some things.
Yeah.
I think both of our setup tours at this point are probably a little old for what's kind of going on at the moment. At least for me, I'm about to move, so there's definitely going to be a few HQ type behind the scenes stuff coming soon.
But yeah, you just triggered a thought with me. Perhaps we could look at making our old behind the scenes videos public on our Hub Extras channel. Yeah. So all our Patreon behind the scenes videos go on our Hub Extras channel. So not this channel, it's a separate channel that we have for those videos, but maybe we could link them or something and make a couple of them public because they're just unlisted at the moment.
We'll look into that.
That's something we could do. Cool. Next question. Do you think that the RTX 2070 will be more powerful than the PS5's GPU? Any thoughts on that, Tim? I kind of go to Tim for console stuff. I don't really follow the console stuff too much. I probably should because they're starting to cross over a bit more. But
yeah, these questions always interest me a lot because you sort of, with the console, you don't need as much GPU power to get the same performance because of the optimization of consoles. So something like a PS4 Pro is probably approaching RTX 20. I mean, it's not going to be quite there. Probably more RTX 2060 level. Okay. But certainly, sort of pretty decent performance out of that in the Xbox One X as well. So, yeah, I would think that if the PS5's coming in, they'd want to do a pretty powerful sort of system. They're sort of talking a lot about 4K, actual good quality 4K gaming. It's hard to know because we don't have anything to go on, really.
Well, that's true.
But I would say that it's probably going to be more powerful than an RTX 2070. It's probably my guess.
Yeah, almost, based on what you've just said there, it almost wouldn't be worth releasing it if it wasn't. So
yeah, because you'd think that the base PS5 would be more powerful than the PS4 Pro. There wouldn't be a lot of point.
No, there wouldn't be. And how long does the PS5 have to last in the market before
a
it's
long
replaced?
time. Like, how long has it been? 7 years, 8 years or something?
So imagine where, well, probably shouldn't say this right now, but imagine where desktop GPU performance should be in 7 years' time.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be unrecognizable, hopefully, should be.
Yeah, it'll be powerful.
Yeah. All right, you want to read out the next question for us?
I will. Okay. Hello, Hardware Unboxed. I've been wondering if the upcoming 3rd Gen Ryzen were to get the rumored 15% IPC increase, will it be able to outperform current gen Intel CPUs in gaming? What do you think? Thanks to the reviews and benchmarks. They're tremendous. Help for gamers. Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. What are your thoughts on this? How far back is Ryzen now? Is that 15% going to help?
It'll help tremendously. I think, well, it also depends largely on clock speed. So we didn't really mention that there, did we? So assuming they can get, good, decent clock speed gains up to 4.5 around there for sort of an all-core. And the big one is latency. Latency is really what sort of slows Ryzen down in sort of high frame rate gaming. So if they can get a bit of a clock speed bump, improve memory latency, then a 15% IPC increase, I would say we're looking at beating the current Intel CPUs pretty comfortably, or pretty consistently at least. So I think if the 2nd gen Ryzen CPUs that we have now, without changing frequency or latency and just giving a 15% IPC, but which sort of IPC is a funny thing because latency and all that does tie into it, I suppose.
It depends on the application.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
It's all part of your IPC performance. But yeah, I think it's safe to say if they can pull a 15% gain off regardless, then yeah, they're going to be at least on par. But you should end up with more cores and things like that. So yeah, I think Zen 2 should be pretty good. You reckon that's fair?
I think that's fair.
All right.
Okay, Steve, any idea on the 9900KF, 9700KF, 9600KF being able to pre-order for months? Are they shipping yet?
Well, if you're asking me if I have any idea, I have no idea, do you?
I don't have any idea if they're shipping. I think Intel officially announced them or launched them just in the last couple of weeks. There's been those rumors about those CPUs for a long time, and they went and here's our full 9th generation list, and those were on there.
So the F range, apart from the 9400F, are there many others out in the wild? Because there was no other models that I came across when I was looking.
Yeah, I think these are the new ones. The
Okay.
sort of the KF type ones and all that. So
Yeah, not sure what's going on there, but haven't really looked into it. So yeah, I guess we can't really give you a great answer on that question. So sorry about that. Okay, comment from Soviet Bird. This was, I think, fairly upvoted. Why don't we see more true HDR monitors? Aside from the two 4K 144Hz monitors from Asus and Acer, I'm not aware of any other panels that meet the full checklist for HDR. I think it's a cool feature, but if manufacturers keep treating HDR like a joke, it may never become mainstream. So I am going to hand that entirely over to Tim.
I totally get where you're coming from because it's very frustrating to sort of see where HDR is going in monitors. I think it sort of comes into 2 points, I guess. The first one is obviously price, because to add in the main feature that you might have heard me complaining about a lot is with LCDs, you need a full array local dimming backlight, which means there's LEDs all around behind the display so that you can properly achieve the contrast that HDR is really meant for. And that's not a cheap thing to add in. Most monitors that have been built for years don't have that included. So to then suddenly have to manufacture them at a monitor size and add that onto the price of the monitor that some of these monitors for gaming are already over $1,000 without including that.
Yep.
You start adding that in, it makes it even more expensive. And I'm guessing for some companies, they think that that's probably putting it out of the price range that, a gamer would be willing to pay. I think the second reason comes down to just the validation metrics that exist. They kind of allow these not true HDR monitors to exist. It's not just me that's been complaining about, Visa's display HDR 400 certification. I saw this big thing on TFT Central as well, which is another, really reputable monitor testing website, where they went into about how, basically it's just all a load of crap. Like, you're never going to get a good HDR experience from a monitor that's certified with that. But a company is incentivized to have those logos on the box, because having a logo and a certification on the box sort of says, well, we've made our monitor to this standard, so it must be good enough. So I think, that is kind of not helping the situation either. But I think, as I start to educate people, as you guys, watch this content and figure out what is real, what's not, that'll hopefully get a bit better once the sort of reviews come out. Because this exact same thing happened with TVs. Very early on in TV, HDR was all rubbish. Lots of TVs said they were HDR capable when they weren't. And now you can buy really, good quality HDR TVs for good prices. So I think probably a few years away, but hopefully we'll get there.
Random thought, is the slow adoption of quality HDR panels sort of down to the lack of content? So there's not a huge amount. So we've only got the Acer and the Asus monitors. Is the lack of really good game support stopping people from getting really excited about it? Is it sort of a chicken and egg situation? So maybe these cheap, crappy HDR monitors are almost beneficial in pushing the tech out, even though they're not really using it. I don't know. That's just a random thought.
I think more so than the games. I think how Windows has had a lot of compatibility issues with HDR for a long time. I think that has sort of slowed down a bit, because people used to plug in an HDR monitor, turn on the switch in Windows, and it looks like garbage, which kind of slows people down. It doesn't really make you want to use that mode. So I think, that's definitely an issue. But I would say at the moment, most games these days are shipping with HDR support. So I think games these days are probably a little bit ahead of where the monitors are.
Yep.
Which I think, that consoles are driving that. So
you need that first before you can...
That's right. So it's getting better, but something to look out for.
Okay, another question here. If Intel gets to 10 nanometer, it will easily beat AMD 7 nanometer, even 5 nanometer. What are your thoughts, I suppose, is what this person's asking. So is he insinuating that if Intel gets to 10 nanometer, they've automatically won? Is that what he's saying?
I think it sounds like that. It's just sort of saying as a statement.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't think that at all, really. I mean, we have to see what Zen 2 is capable of, but Intel getting to 10 nanometer will really be the first step for them, and I don't know if it's an easy victory for them just getting there. I think they're going to have a serious fight on their hands, which is great for us. Yeah,
and it sounds from a lot of the sort of technical details that we've sort of been able to get so far, it sounds like what Intel was trying to do with 10 nanometers is very close to what TSMC was trying to do with 7 nanometers. Mm-hmm. So if those two things are sort of equal, you wouldn't say it would just necessarily straight up beat it. It would be
and it sounded
similar
like
process tech. So
it's quite a way away, 10 nanometer for Intel.
Yeah, at least for desktop parts.
For desktop mainstream parts. So yeah, AMD will be, assuming this Zen 2 phase goes very well for them, they'll be moving on by then.
Yeah, so could be. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. All right, next question. I think this one was heavily upvoted, and it probably makes sense because it should interest a few of you guys. What are the best under $50 gaming-oriented CPUs in the used market right now? So, yeah, what are good second-hand CPUs to buy for less than $50, essentially? That's a tough one, actually. I just did a quick bit of research. It seems you're unlikely to get even a Sandy Bridge, like Core i7 2600K. That's still a okay processor today, not a great platform. You wouldn't want to spend... Old. Yeah, it's very old. Well, they're definitely all selling for over $50 US on eBay for completed listings. Even something like the Core i5 3570K, so that's an Ivy Bridge, just a quad core, no hyper-threading or anything like that. They're selling for around $50 to $60. Most of them were $60 plus, so even getting one of them for $50 is hard, let alone less than $50. So yeah, in my opinion, the used market's kind of desperate right now. It's not really great for the most part because people can ask those prices for those CPUs because people who have an older Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge, Haswell system, for them to buy an $80 Core i7 or whatever, that's cheaper than building a whole new system for $300, $400, $500 US. So that's why they've sort of held their value quite well. But for people who are looking at just building a new system or buying a new system, unless you can find one of those full complete systems for $100 or less, it's not really worth it. I did see some Ryzen 3 1200s. Again, they're just quad cores. They're definitely no better than the Haswell parts, but they are selling for around $50. And why I would gravitate towards them is for the upgrade path. So if you can snag one of them for $50, maybe get yourself a secondhand B350, maybe even a B450. Not that it really matters which one you get. But if you've got a cheap B350 board for around $50 as well, then you can upgrade to a Zen 2, maybe a 6-core 12-thread processor, whatever comes out in the next few months. But yeah, and then you've got the Xeon CPUs, which, yeah, I mean, for the most part, like an X58 Xeon or older, they're a bit of a bad joke in 2019, in my opinion. You've got security flaws, high power consumption, old platforms with shaky things like USB 3 support. The list as long as your arm of drawbacks with them. But if you can get a whole complete system for $50 or less, which is, yeah, unlikely, but it does happen. I think I paid about $150 for my one, which isn't great, but that's Australian, so it's not US. So yeah, but that's the best. I just paid that because I wanted to do the video. So I looked around for a month and that was the best deal I came across on eBay. So anyway, there aren't too many great CPU purchases there for under $50 because quad cores now, they make do if you're playing Fortnite or something, but they struggle in more modern titles. I think, again, Kyle at Bitwit, he bought, I think it was a 3570, something like that. I think it was an Ivy Bridge quad core, and it was struggling in Tomb Raider and stuff like that. So, and then the dual cores you completely forget about. They're, I mean, if you're really desperate, sure. But yeah, I'd be looking at trying to get on the AM4 platform personally. Anything to add to that, Tim?
That's a good summary. Good job.
Cool. Moving on. Tim will enjoy this question. Why do so many tech channels like to clickbait false info for these so-called leaks that they get from sources? And we're not talking about guys that actually do really good critical analysis or anything like that. Like, I don't know, Jim from Adored TV comes to mind. We're not talking about those kind of guys at all. It's the channels that someone will say something on a forum and then all of a sudden we've got Navi incoming headline. I think that's what this comment's about.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
And YouTube is just littered with those. But they get views. They get really good views, way better views than what we get. And it's really easy to make content. And there's not really much pushback, not a whole lot of backlash. Like if you're continually getting views, pretty good like to dislike ratios, then yeah, it's hard to knock them if all they want to do is build a tech channel. Certainly not what we're interested in doing but I think the answer to that question is views.
Yeah.
Like, if we did a video with Navi in the title, it's guaranteed good views. So that's why they do it. Okay, next question. I'll read this out to give Tim's voice as much of a break as we can. Hey Steve, I'm not really into computers, but my niece dropped an old PC at my house the other week. It's pretty old. I think it's got 8GB of RAM, Intel Haswell Pentium, so that's a dual core, 500 watt power supply, GT 740 video card, Asus H81M motherboard. Just wondering what I could do to play the latest games at quality frame rates.
It's pretty old.
That's a tough one. That is a tough one. Well, your CPU's pretty well useless. We talked about this in an earlier comment. The dual cores are pretty well dead for any sort of basic games. I mean, you can play older games that are still fun, but if you want to get into newer games at quality frame rates, which I imagine is 60 FPS plus, then yeah, not a lot you can do with that one, unfortunately. Again, the Haswell, you'd be limited to locked. Well, you could buy a K processor, but you couldn't overclock it on that board, which would be fine anyway. But you're looking at probably $80 for a good sort of Core i7 processor. Don't know if it's worth it. 8GB of RAM, you really need 16 for good, smooth frame rates. That's the least of your worries here, though. And then the GT 740, like, you know, you could get a Radeon RX 570 or something, maybe even one of them secondhand for $80, but you're looking at spending $160 on that system, whereas you could probably build, a new system for just the box, around 300 US, 400 at most. So you're kind of getting halfway to a new system anyway, and it's not going to be nearly as good.
Yeah, I mean, this person's kind of in a situation where there's too many key components that are outdated, so you're sort of looking more at your full upgrade than just being able to piece together something.
Yeah, few years ago, before Ryzen sort of came along and games started to scale quite well across many threads, then I would have said, just stick a Haswell Core i5 in it and maybe get a second-hand graphics card for $50, and yeah, you could probably $100 you'd get out of trouble. But yeah, it'd almost be wasting money at this point because it'd improve the gaming experience. But yeah, it depends what you want to play. If it's just Fortnite, then yeah, you could probably just put a graphics card in there and you'd be away at reasonable quality settings. But yeah, otherwise, I'd probably just save up and build a new system, and hopefully later in the year, you better get something a lot better for around $300-400 US. All right, we'll move on to the next one. How did you guys start your channel? Was Nvidia and other companies supporting you from the beginning? How did you feel when you got your first 50k subscribers? Okay, well, we'll start with the first one. How did you guys start the channel? So Tim didn't start the channel, but we consulted Tim quite heavily when starting the channel, actually, because Tim was already making YouTube videos for TechSpot.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that.
So Tim already had a bit of an understanding about how to set the camera up for video, audio, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I spent quite a bit sort of getting in Tim's ear, picking his brain about how to do YouTube. But the reason, how the channel started was a good friend of mine, Matt, he had a bit of free time. I had a lot of PC hardware, and he was wanting to get into YouTube, try a video, and it really interested him. He liked watching a lot of YouTube. I didn't actually watch much YouTube at all back then, which is hard to believe now because all I do is watch YouTube now.
Yeah, I know it's so big now.
Yeah, I never really watch TV or movies or anything anymore. It's all YouTube. But yeah, he really, he wanted me to do it. He's like, you should start a YouTube channel instead of just writing, instead of just doing tech articles. You should do a channel. And I was not interested at all. At the time I thought I couldn't imagine anything worse. Like, I just don't want to do it. And then he said, well, what if I get in front of the camera and that way you help me? And we were going to do unboxing videos. They were super boring. So we did like one of those. Then we thought we'll do my TechSpot articles in video format. And that's how the channel sort of progressed. Then we got to about 40,000 subscribers, and Matt realized it wasn't really for him. This stuff, it always seems like it's a lot of fun. It's just, guys will always be like, oh, look at your set. I wish I could have a lot of hardware. It's just, you got the dream job. And for me, it is, but you've got to be prepared to put in an insane amount of hours to make the content. And obviously Tim's willing to do that. And yeah, so around 40k subscribers, Matt left, and then it was, do we let the channel die or what? And then I thought, well, I didn't really want to jump in front of the camera. Yeah, I couldn't really imagine myself doing it, but I really enjoyed making the videos. I really loved what the channel had become, so I didn't want to see it die. So I jumped in front of the camera, and it went pretty well. You guys were pretty easy on me. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun since. And then Tim finished his engineering degree. He was looking at going and doing engineering work, but he loves doing this as well. So he wanted to sort of partner with me and continue the channel. So I don't know how many subscribers we had when you joined.
Oh, it was below 100, I thought.
Yeah,
below
probably.
100K, that is,
Yep.
yeah.
So, yeah, we've done pretty well since then. So that's sort of how the channel started. NVIDIA and other companies supporting us from the beginning. It's because I was already getting all the information on hardware and stuff for TechSpot, we were just reusing that a lot for Hardware Unboxed. But before long, all these companies were approaching us, sort of wanting to be more involved with the channel directly, and it just went from there. Really, starting your own tech channel, you don't need contacts, you don't need companies, you don't need anything. You just need drive. You just need to be able to work hard. For the first 2 years, I made no money on this channel. It cost me money. It was a really hard period because I just had my first kids, so me and my wife were struggling a fair bit, but I really wanted to make this work because I enjoyed it and I saw a future in it. But you've just got to be willing to stick it out. Like, 2 years you got to throw at it with making no money, and you've got to work on it every second you get. So it's pretty tough, but if you enjoy it, then yeah, you just got to go for it. So you don't need companies or whatever. Review the parts in your system, review your mate's hardware, do tech articles, do whatever. You don't need a lot of the stuff to do interesting content. So you just got to be passionate about it and get into it. I'll try and wrap this question up quickly. I know I've been going on for a bit. And then how do you feel when you got your first 50k subscribers? I mean, 50k was just another number for me. 5k was just mind-blowing. 10k was mind-blowing. 15, 20. Even we're working towards 400,000 this year, which is just, I see the number and I'm like, I don't know what to make of it. It's really weird.
Yeah, I think I found that I don't really appreciate the number until I sort of talk to other people about like, oh yeah, I work on a YouTube channel. It's got, 350,000 subscribers or thereabout. And they're like, 350,000, that's a massive number. And it's sort of like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because you see other guys like Linus, even Jay, Bitwit, Paul, those guys have been doing it for longer and they're doing a great job. They have tons and tons of subscribers. We're just a little fish in a big pond. But yeah, you can't go comparing yourself to other people. Just do your own thing. And, we're growing, we're enjoying it. So it doesn't really matter where we'd be at. It's just as long as it's growing and going in the right direction, you're having fun doing it. But yeah, it's for me, the 50k thing was mind-blowing, but every single time we get to sort of one of those things that can be considered milestones, it's just amazing.
Yep.
So, all right. Another graphics card related question this looks like. I have a GTX 1050. Should I upgrade to the 1650 or RX 570? In my region, it's like $30 cheaper. I have a 550 watt power supply. It's bronze rated. So my interpretation of that question is he's saying the RX 570 is $30 cheaper. Which would be right because they're about 120, 150. I assume probably US based, not sure. Anyway, out of that comparison, just look at my day one review. Oh no, it was my day 1.5 review. But yeah, the RX 570 is the obvious choice there because I believe for you it's $30 cheaper, which should be correct, and it's faster. And you've got a 550 watt power supply. Do you care about power consumption that much? Even if you're paying a lot for power like we are, if you're playing for I think it's 7 hours a week or something, it's $10 a year. That's Australian, $10 Australian. So what's that, like $6 or something? $6.50.
I think with the power sort of how much usage it is, what does it cost? It's almost negligible. I mean, like
it is
$10 over an entire year when you're talking about GPUs that are different. The difference in price is a lot larger than that. And you have to game a lot too to sort of get those sort of numbers.
Look, if they were identical in terms of performance, I would always say just get the 1650. but you're looking at 20, 30% performance gains in some games. That doesn't go unnoticed. That's significant.
Yeah.
That's like a whole tier above when you're getting performance gains that big. So I would go the RX 570 every time. It just seems like an obvious choice to me. Not much more to say on that one. Oh boy. You right?
Yep.
I'll let you die because this comment's a beauty. D12 Studio. And I normally really wouldn't address this kind of question, but it was heavily upvoted, so we'll just include. I think I know what Tim and I are both going to say, but here we go. Yep. Will Navi be another AMD Trainwreck or a genuine threat to NVIDIA's throne? Well, first of all, I mean, AMD Trainwreck's a bit harsh. I know I've been harsh myself on Vega and the Radeon 7, but they're not that bad. Like, there's only one alternative, and it's not like it's... Yeah, anyway, I won't get into that. We don't know what Navi's going to be like. I mean, we're just guessing. Until I get it, benchmark it in at least a dozen games, then we don't know. Until we know the price, performance, it's anyone's guess. Okay, so I think we'll wrap up part 1 of this month, April's Q&A, and yeah, we'll have part 2 on the channel probably tomorrow. But yeah, there's a lot of questions to get through, so rather make it one big long one. You guys know what we do, so we split it into about 20-25 minute episodes. And yeah, thank you everyone who asked questions. Hopefully we answered your question this one. If not, you may get a second chance tomorrow. And then I think we've got a separate Patreon straight question answering session as well. Anyway, I'm your host, Steve.
I'm your host, Tim.
You're just the other guy.
Yeah, no one knows who I am. But that's fine with me.
Subscribe, like, do all that stuff, and we'll see you again next time.